Hey! Did you just get a fancy new camera and you got no idea how to use it? Sure looks like it. You want to learn what those settings do? Well, come on, I'll show you. Let's go. Right now.
What's up, everybody? You probably noticed I don't look like Andrew. That's because I'm not. That's because we're talking about photography today. We're going to talk about the 3 staple points that every photographer should know and understand how to use when it comes to their settings in their camera. We're going to talk about 3 things: ISO, aperture, and shutter speed. Let's get into it. So first, we're going to talk about ISO. So ISO is basically how much light that your camera allows, how sensitive it is. So let's say you're down to 100 ISO. That's going to be good for when you're outside in a nice sunny day. And if you go up, let's say you're in that same situation, you go outside and you bump your ISO from 100 to 6400, odds are, especially on a sunny day, you're going to have a white screen. It's going to be way overexposed and you're not going to be able to see anything. There are times where you do have to bump up your ISO, and really, it's all a balancing game between the 3 different things. So since we know ISO is how much sensitivity our camera has to light, let's jump into the next thing, and that is going to be aperture. Okay, so aperture, we're going to talk about it kind of like it's your pupil. So think of it like the higher the number, the smaller the pupil, the lower the number, the bigger. And I know that's kind of counterintuitive and opposite of what you would think, but just trust me, this is how it works. I didn't make it up. Somebody else did. Be mad at them. Anyways, so let's say, for example, we have a portrait shot that we're doing, and we have lights in the background, but we don't want to see the lights. Normally, we want to have that sweet bokeh. This is what bokeh is. So what we're going to do is we're going to get our focus on our subject, and we're going to have our aperture cranked down. Let's say, like this goes to, I want to say, 3.5 or a 0.35. That doesn't sound right. It doesn't matter. Anyways, so what we do is we crank it down, and we're going to see our lights in the background going from being into focus, and they're going to start to have that sweet, sweet blur that looks, and it's nice. Another thing, too, that you need to take into consideration, and this is all part of the balancing act that I talked about earlier, aperture also affects how much light goes into your camera, just like ISO does, but in a different way. So think of it like this. The bigger your pupil is, the more light comes in. The smaller it is, the less. It's the same way for your lens. When your lens gets high apertures with small holes, it's going to let in less light, and your sensor's not going to pick up as much. Vice versa. Now that we know that, let's jump into the 3rd setting, shutter speed. All right, so we've covered ISO, we've covered aperture. That leaves one last step, shutter speed. What is it? I'm going to tell you. So shutter speed, you can think of it like this. If aperture is your pupil, shutter speed is kind of like your eyelid. So inside your camera, the way it works, when you take a picture, the thing goes boop. Shutter speed is how fast your boop is. I know, probably not professional terminology, but bear with me. So, I can't help it, I'm popular, sorry. Now, if you're trying to, let's use an example. If you're out, you're taking photos of your kid's soccer game. You want to catch crisp, nice photos. The way to do that is you're going to have to balance your ISO and aperture with your shutter speed, and you're going to need something, I don't know, for sports, I'd say 1/120 and up will get you an okay non-blurry picture. If you're doing like a portrait, you don't need that. You can bump it down. Basically, shutter speed, there's 2 things that you can think of. Again, light. Everything with cameras, all the settings evolves around light in some ways. And if you haven't noticed, this is all a balancing act. It's like a little triangle. You have to balance it. Shutter speed is for how much light it comes in because of how fast that clicks, how much time the light has to come in, and how fast it captures it cleanly without any blur. Now that we've learned all this information, let's go take a picture. Okay, so now that we've covered all of the information about our settings, let's take these pictures. Right now I have my camera set to 320 shutter speed, 400 ISO. I know I did the 4 for the 3, don't make fun of me in the comments. 400 ISO, 320 shutter speed, and a 2.0 aperture. Let's take these pictures and I'll throw them on the screen and you can tell me what you think. Now I'll throw that up on the screen and now take a look at what happens when I change a couple of settings. So let's change our ISO from 400, we'll go to 1600 and let's see what happens. All right, now we'll throw that on the screen and tell me what you notice is different. All right, guys, that is our tutorial on the basic camera settings. Now that we've talked about it, we don't need this. That sounded expensive. Anyways, if you like this, make sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe. And if you really like this stuff and you want to stay caught up to date on anything we post, make sure you hit that bell. All right, till next time, see ya.